Let's talk about the facts. You're saying that
No. Let me finish my question, Bill. I want you to take a look at this polling. Only about 36% of Americans think global warming is a serious threat to our way of life. Now, again, let me posit. Everything that Van and the White House have said is true. However, the scare tactics have not worked. And don't you need public consensus to move the needle on this?
So how do you want to get public consensus? By saying that it's not happening, that it's not serious, that shorelines aren't flooding, that we're
No,
not...
I want you to advise the politicians.
Advise the politicians.
Because they're not, whatever they're doing, whatever Van is doing to scare the public is not changing public opinion.
Inform the public, but go right ahead.
Let's just start with, we don't agree on the facts, right? So this third report came out saying it's very serious. You say no. Right? There's the essence of the problem, S.E. Well, the science, the researchers say yes.
Not all the researchers. And again,
hope.
even the IPCC says that there's no frequency or intensity when it comes to hurricanes.
Okay, hurricane, schmurricane, if I may.
This one says about tornadoes. It's the same thing. Yeah, sea level is rising, although it's retracted. It's increasing at a slower rate over the past few years. We've had Arctic ice globally increasing.
Data? I think
no, not absolutely.
Why did this report come out?
But Bill, isn't it
very reasonable that the recent trouble in Paris is a result of climate change? This water shortage in Syria. There is a water shortage in Syria. This is fact-based. Small and medium farmers have abandoned their farms because there's not enough water, not enough rainfall. And especially the young people who have not grown up there, have not had their whole lives invested in living off the land. Young people have gone to the big cities looking for work. There's not enough work for everybody. So the disaffected youths, as we say, the young people who don't believe in the system, believe the system's failed, don't believe in the economy, are more easily engaged and more easily recruited by terrorist organizations. And then they end up partway around the world in Paris shooting people. So you can make a very reasonable argument that climate change is not that indirectly related to terrorism. It's related to terrorism.
So when you say this to a creationist, the tree is 6,800 years old, they go, I don't know. Why should I believe? I see it now. And you know, I shouldn't do that accent because stupid people are everywhere.
Well, he and his people have done is used the word science in this new way. It's very much like the people who deny that smoking causes cancer and that there's climate change. And this is to say you take what would be scientific uncertainty, plus or minus such and such percent, and turn it into doubt about the whole thing.
A couple of times in the debate, you know, somebody asked a question in the audience when they opened it up, and you said, that's a great question, like where did consciousness come from? What happened before the Big Bang? And you said, what you said was, we don't know. That's the crux of it. When they hear that, that's when they shit in their pants. The idea that we don't know. It scares some people. And every time you said it, Ken Ham would say, well, you know, Bill, there's a book.
I got this book. As I say, Mr. Ham and the grown-ups, they can do what they want. But my concern is for the students, for the kids in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the environs there that are brought up with this, and then they're taught that, oh yes, people are going to oppose you. As you grow up in life, people are going to think that your views are wrong and unsupportable, and of course you are wrong and unsupportable. But
you could say that out loud, Bill.
But it's well, part of the thing that really in that situation, Bill, that was really, I think, difficult for me, and what I worked really hard on was not slapping my forehead, not freaking out.
And that's good, because I agree that we do have to engage people.
Yeah. What people are doing is introducing the idea that scientific uncertainty, in this case about cold weather events in what we call back east, is the same as uncertainty about the whole idea of climate change. And this is unscientific, it's not logical, it is a way, apparently, that the fossil fuel industry has dealt with our politics. And this is not good. Everybody, you don't need a PhD in climate science to understand what's going on. That we have overwhelming evidence that climate is changing, that you cannot tie any one event to that is not the same as doubt about the whole thing. So what I would encourage everybody to do is back up and let's agree on the facts. Would you say that the Antarctic has less ice than it used to? When you asserted, Congresswoman, that a change from 320 to 400 parts per million is insignificant, my goodness, that's 30%. I mean, that's an enormous change, and it's changing the world, and that's just over the last few decades. You go back to 1750 with the invention of the steam engine. I mean, everybody's been over this a lot, but it's gone from 250 to 400. There is no debate in the scientific community.
Do you think that the other things other than the black holes, like strangelets or magnetic monopoles or any of these other things like vacuum transitions and all this, are they going to be problems, and why do you think that is not being talked about more?
I don't think they're going to be problems. They're going to be part of this new physics that we don't even know about. I mean, my grandfather did not know about relativity. How many people have been in a car with global positioning? In order to use global positioning, you have to take into account not only special relativity, the relative motion, the speed of the spacecraft, you have to take into account the general relativity, the gravity of the Earth. That wasn't even understood a century ago. It wasn't a million years ago. It's just 2 generations ago. I mean, what's going to be understood about magnetism and what's nowadays called string theory or dark matter or dark energy? It's going to change the world. I don't think it's anything to be worried about. It's something to be excited about and embrace, so that the quality of everyone's life will be that much richer through, dare I say it, science! And you can absolutely show the Earth is not 6,000 or 10,000 years old. That's just wrong. So I'm not going after anybody's religion, but we can't use tax dollars intended for science education to teach this idea that the Earth is 10,000 years old as an alternative to the observable facts. I mean, that's inappropriate. That's what started this whole thing. If you want to say it's God, it is unknowable. As we say, you can't prove a negative, and so on. That is to say, I can't prove it's not, for example. But the Earth is not 10,000 years old. Ancient dinosaurs did walk this planet up to 65 million years ago. I am a science nerd, and I encourage people to wear bow ties. They don't slip into your soup. They don't flop into your flask. But for me, as a critical thinker, or a guy who tries to think critically, a guy who works to think scientifically, to argue that there's some words translated, I believe, if I understand it, from Aramaic that serve as a science text, that's just not satisfactory to me. If you want to claim that God started life and then 3.5 billion years went by and here we are, well, that's very difficult to disprove. On the other hand, if you say that the Earth is only 10,000 years old, that's very straightforward to disprove. That's been strongly disproven. Edwin Hubble was sitting at Mount Wilson, which is up from Pasadena, California. And Edwin Hubble sat there at this very big telescope night after night studying the heavens. And he found that the stars are moving apart. The stars are moving apart. And he wasn't sure why, but it was clear that the stars are moving farther and farther apart all the time. Another astronomer, Fred Hoyle, just remarked, well, it was like there was a big bang. There was an explosion. This is to say, since everything's moving apart, it's very reasonable that at one time they were all together. And there's a place from whence these things expanded. And it was a remarkable insight. They went out listening, and there was this hiss, this tss, all the time that wouldn't go away. They turned it this way. The hiss was still there. They heard it that way. It's still there. Astronomers running the numbers, doing math, predicted that in the cosmos would be left over this echo, this energy from the Big Bang that would be detectable. And they detected it. We built the Cosmic Observatory for Background Emissions, the COBE spacecraft, and it matched exactly the astronomers' predictions. You got to respect that. My mom was a big believer in women doing everything. She encouraged everybody to be able to do math. She was good at math. During World War II, she was in the Navy. I remember as a little kid, her uniforms hanging in the end of the closet. She was recruited to work on the Enigma code, and there's a lot of math involved in the Enigma code. The U.S. built these machines and decoded messages for years. And everybody says it shortened the war about 1.5 years. And so she wasn't Rosie the Riveter. She was Rosie the top secret code breaker. People would ask her what she did during World War II, and she'd say, can't talk about it. But clearly it was the most satisfying time of her professional career. I would remind us that half of the humans are girls or women. So then why don't we have half of the scientists be women?
I have a question. This is how I will get excited about Mars.
Okay,
Can you
go
make a
for it.
sex tape on Mars?
I think so. It's 40% of the gravity.
Okay.
Just think, you'd be not floating,
what's
there'd be
that?
like this whole, like
What's 40%?
less than half. What am I supposed to say?
Consciousness has kind of baffled us for a while, okay? And evidence that we haven't a clue about what consciousness is drawn from the fact of how many books are published on the topic, right? We're not really continuing to publish books, not really, on like Newtonian physics. It's done, all right? So the fact that people keep publishing books on consciousness is the evidence we don't know anything about it, because if we knew all about it, you wouldn't have to keep publishing. So what I wonder, Richard, is whether there really is no such thing as consciousness at all, and that there's some other understanding of the functioning of the human brain that renders that question obsolete.
To that, I gotta say, like, oh, wow. Perfect.
Okay.
And am I like thinking, or am I just like thinking that I'm thinking? Wow.
Will you
Richard,
stop with
that? Richard. We went decades not understanding the precession of Mercury. It was this big mystery, and we invented solutions to it, like a mysterious planet Vulcan tugging on it such that it's perihelion precessed. And that wasn't the explanation at all. It was obviously general relativity, another thing, not the original question we were asking. So you say you want to know what consciousness is. Maybe that's not even the right question.
How about this? What's the nature of consciousness?
Excellent. Okay, let's move on.